Hey guys, thank you for joining me. My name is Danielle, #Damsel at These Enlightened Edits. You can probably tell from the title of this video a little bit about what it's going to reference. And there are just some things on my heart that felt really relevant right now especially, but this is timeless, so whenever you're finding it is right for you. I want to start with a tiny disclaimer. I don't represent any organization, any organized religion. If you visit my feed on Instagram and scroll through it a bit, you can probably tell I don't align myself with any one way or any one version of deity or source or God. I know that too many of us have been preached to in the past with this, in my opinion, a little bit insidious need to pull people to one side or the other, and that is not what I'm here to do. If you found this video and you are a part of organized religion, no disrespect or judgment towards you, but I would ask that you please not leave any hate or intolerance comments. Those will be probably deleted or blocked, and I would ask that if you are inclined to do that on behalf of a religion that you think is love, if you're inclined to force your views on someone out of intolerance or hate, I would encourage you to look at yourself and see if you really are aligning yourself with what you think you are, and if the bigger picture of what you've aligned yourself with is actually doing what you think it's doing. That's my little spiel because I have been preached to. I grew up Catholic, and I was yelled at by priests and others and judged by others for my relationship and my connection to God, and I never want that to happen to anyone else. I am strong enough to be able to face that myself if it happens, but I don't want any of you as my soul family joining me here to have to deal with that. And if you're new to joining me and my practice and my work, welcome. I want you to know that this is a judgment-free zone, and I'm not here to force my views on anyone. I'm just here to share them and enlighten a little bit, like These Enlightened Edits, and discuss, how does it light you up? What lights you up? Let's chat and see. So that's my little spiel. If you're new, I have been a lifelong medium, and when I was little, some of my earliest memories in this life are being toddler, like around 3 years old, and having visitation from Jesus and Mother Mary and angels and archangels. And when I started to share that with people in the religious communities, and when I would go to religious education or church, if I shared it with the priest, I was yelled at. I was told by a priest. I discussed with him one time when he called in Jesus during the Mass. Not when he called in Jesus, which is a very important distinction here, but when the audience or the collective that was there praying called in Jesus in repetition of his call. I saw Jesus come over everyone in the crowd. And when I expressed that to the priest, I was yelled at. I was told, oh, that wasn't Jesus. That was the devil. Didn't you see the horns? Didn't you look for the horns? You should be smart and look for the horns. And the multi-layers of that lesson and that experience are something I'll leave out for now. I did question, even as a young child, why would the devil come when you call Jesus? And like I said, I'm not here to judge anyone in practice of the church. If that still feels relevant and right for your heart, that's amazing, and I'm happy for you. And I'm really happy, proud, and honored that you are joining me here in exploring a little bit outside of that. I know from experience that can be a very difficult thing to do. But the purpose of this video is that as a spiritual person, I really wanted to explore understanding and healing relationship with Christ, with Jesus. I prefer now to say Yeshua, but sometimes, since it's so ingrained, I will still say Jesus, and since that is the name that most of the collective society knows him as and remembers him as, I will interchangeably use both. I believe Yeshua is the more historically accurate name, and Jesus is the Romanized version of his name that happened after his death by people that didn't know him. And I will tell you, as a spiritual person, I'm sure you can imagine growing up a medium and in this way, and being a channel and experiencing and exploring many forms of deity besides just Christ, and having them approach me and pursue me in love. It was a little bit of a struggle to fully come back to Christ and understand from my new awakened level what Christ is, wants to be, and can be to, for, and with us. I really love people that reference Jesus as Master Jesus or as Yeshua, like I said. It's important, and still a lot of people, even in that religion, don't even recognize the fact that Christ was not his last name. It is a title, just as in other religions like Buddha is a title. That was not the Buddha's name. The first Buddha was Siddhartha, and Christ is a title. Messiah is a title, and it can apply across the board. It's just that that is the most prominent in our society living being that we have seen in Judeo-Christian understanding illustrate that title. That gets me to my other point here, is that to me, Christ is an energy, and Christ consciousness is a real thing. As I'm recording this, it is Easter week 2020. We are in a huge transition as a society, and people are, questioning as the world is shutting down in various ways. Is this the second coming? Very fear-based about that. In my opinion, and what I've always been shown, is that we're gifted an opportunity to have the second coming be Christ consciousness, where we embody and awaken to and ascend to that Christ heart-based way of being. And if a physical being has to come back in order to help awaken that, that's another matter. But a lot of people like myself who resonate with the term light worker are here awakening at different paces, a little bit ahead of some in society, so that we can be channels and examples to everyone else in how to heal our own stuff and ascend ourselves to Christ consciousness, and let that spread across the board as the second coming, as the awakening, as the ascension. As I was also saying, Christ is an energy, and to me that energy has come to and walked this earth many times in many forms. I see the Buddha, the original Buddha, Siddhartha, as the same energy as Christ, reincarnated, different avatar. If you understand Hinduism, you understand that avatar business. And speaking of Hinduism, Krishna, Lord Krishna, I believe, is Christ, was Christ in another form, in another time, in another example, illustration, and way of being, to speak to people in a different form, in a different place, in a different time, and as another example. Because I believe there are many paths to God, and God will always make a way for their children. I like to say, try to use more gender neutral pronouns, which it is a process because they're very ingrained, because to me, God and Source is an energy. If we are truly made in God's image, and there are masculine and feminine versions across the earth, God is both. God is both masculine and feminine, divine masculine, divine feminine, right? If you know me, you know I'm also a twin flame, and I am so in line with understanding that we are also both. We are all also both, no matter what physical body we are in, even no matter what energy we more align ourselves in. every part of the ascension journey, of all of our journeys, are trying to teach us to balance those two things. In my opinion, that's what's going on now also with earth changes and everything happening, is we're clearing out the wounded masculine patriarchal ways, and not clearing them out to only bring in the feminine, clearing them out to make way for the balanced and divine feminine and divine masculine, not forcing anything masculine and not subservient feminine. Equally balanced, loving, giving, and receiving masculine and feminine. I would also like to say to anyone still hanging in there and listening with me, I really hope this is resonating with you, and I appreciate you for being here. I am also a member of the LGBT community, and as a medium and an LGBT member, those are two communities that have been really crushed, quite honestly, by Christian religion. And I have been on my own journey to heal my relationship with Christ and separate what has been done to two of my biggest parts of myself communities from that of the energy of Christ. Because in my opinion and experience, there has been very little on this planet that has judged as much and hurt as much as people supposedly trying to spread Christ's love through spreading Christianity. Christianity, just as a harsh truth, not to trigger or judge anyone, if you look at the history of things, they have stamped out so much history on this planet in favor of rewriting it for organized religious control and for their idea of a man who was not what they make him to be. In my opinion and experience, Christ is love, Christ is accepting, Christ explored. You know, there are the lost years of the Bible for a reason. That hidden history is hidden for a reason, because in my experience and memory and knowledge, Christ explored the world and different mystical traditions during that time. And that is hidden from the Christian religion, because that is a way for people to take their own path to God and have their own connection to God and source. And organized religion doesn't really want you to have that, because they want you to have to go through them to get to Christ, to get to God the Father, right? They want to have the power over you. And so they created the Council of Nicaea, where they rewrote the Bible and took things out of it and made it more cryptic so that they can hold the keys to the kingdom instead of gift them to you and help you find them within yourselves, like Christ really tried to do. In my opinion, Christ and Mary Magdalene, his beloved, worked together in balance of divine masculine and divine feminine love. We're constantly uncovering more physical world evidence of this, with the Dead Sea Scrolls, with the lost Gospels that were taken out, with the traditions and practices that were stamped out across the world in favor of this one organized way, as opposed to the ways that most called to the people through their hearts. We've lost so much culture and history on this planet because of Christianity stamping it out. And it's extremely unfortunate, and I don't believe at all that it's what Christ meant to happen. That's probably best left to another discussion, and you'll forgive me if I get my fur up a little bit over it. Someone that I love very much and a culture that I love very much was put into, their culture was put into control because of the Christian religion, and they lost a lot of their history and their truth, and I honestly do hold resentment about that, and I've seen it happen time and time again. I've always remembered my past lives, and I have felt a burden of a lot of the truth that I remember not being around for people anymore on this planet because of being stamped out, supposedly in the name of Christ. And as I was saying, as an LGBT member and a medium, we have been so judged and hated. Christ got angry, but he didn't hate anyone. He got angry and he flipped the table at the tax collector, but he didn't hate him. He would never advocate the spreading of hate. And I don't believe any God, as a creator God, why would you hate and judge your children? To me, God is unconditionally loving and accepting, and we have free will so that we can explore our own power that God has gifted us. That's why I believe we're co-creators of our reality. That's why I believe we're allowed to make mistakes and be forgiven for those mistakes, because God knows and sees that it's all a learning experience and it's all relevant and important. And God forgives and loves us unconditionally in hopes that we will learn to be that way. And it's been my sadness that for thousands of years, on this planet especially, people have not been remembering that and not been spreading that truth and that love. And then speaking as a medium, I've always channeled and been honored to be a divine channel and conduit for some words and lessons and light of God. I never see that as though I'm more special than anyone else. And if you've worked with me, you know that I like to give you tools so that you can connect as well. I'm never here. I like the term medium because I'm bridging the gap between one understanding and another, between one dimension and another. But I'm never here to stand in the middle of you and God. I'm here to show you ways that you're not yet seeing. And in the medium mystic communities for thousands of years, people have been disregarded because of the Christian religion and judged and chastised and killed. You know, they've been killed for this. There are saints in the Catholic religion. I would say 99% of saints were tortured and judged in their time and martyred in their time, because that religion that they were born into and on mission to spread Christ's light and love through judged them, hurt them, threw dirt on their truth and disregarded them while they were alive, and in a lot of cases killed them. Even Christ's beloved St. Peter. It's one thing to try to judge and say that about saints who came later on and didn't have physical relationship with Christ, and it was all mystical and through the mind and through the heart and through the words, and people weren't ready, right? You can try to give excuse about that. St. Peter lived and walked with Christ physically, and they crucified him upside down for trying to spread light and truth in an unorganized way, right? And as a spiritual gifted person, and if you've made it this far, you're probably exploring some of your mystical gifts and connections as well. I'm really just done. I'm just done with us being chastised and hiding our light and carrying this wound where we feel we have to either hide ourselves or prove ourselves or martyr ourselves and constantly give and never receive in an effort to prove that we're really working on behalf of God. And I don't only work on behalf of Christ. As I was saying, I align with so many different traditions and deities who have pursued me in love and light. And I love and appreciate all of them. I believe Christ appreciates that. Christ himself brought Ganesha to me. Any God that you feel is going to be jealous and judgmental of you, I would encourage you to explore that's maybe not who you think it is, because in my opinion and experience, that's just not the way. And it has taken me quite a lot of time, especially with the truths that I know and remember from past lives, starseed and multidimensional things of mine, which is again another discussion. But with all those truths and all the harshness, all the blood that's been spilled supposedly in Christ's name, it's taken me a lot to be able to appreciate and work with Christ again. And I just want to share with you some tools that I've done to do that. Maybe they will help you as well, because I really hate, and I don't like to use that word, but I use it carefully. I hate to see people, and I hated to see myself close their heart off to the gift that can be Christ because of the hurt that's been done in Christ's name. So some things that have really helped me is really working with Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, his beloved, and first accepting that loving, divine, feminine way, and then them together as a couple, rebuilding that trust. It's also been really helpful to me to explore the other versions, like I mentioned, of Christ, because we can have such a wound and such an ingrainment of what we've been told Christ is, that we really need to take our own path to exploring and asking Christ to reveal what he really is and wants to be to, for, and with us. And in my experience, some of the way to really do that is to not just push forward with only Christ's way, really explore some of the other ways, which you don't have to. This is just something that's been helpful to me, but really exploring Buddhism and the Buddha and that version, in my opinion, of Christ. And honestly, like the biggest thing, especially lately, that's been really healing me with this is exploring Krishna. There's a reason why Christ consciousness and Krishna consciousness are the same. There's a reason why it's all love, heart, and compassion based for both. There are so many similarities in their stories and in their lives that they lived for a reason, in my opinion, again. But really chanting like Hare Krishna, Hare is the energy of God and Krishna is a name of God. So when you do that chant together, you are merging both and you're merging the two and you're allowing yourself to experience both in the two. And just from brain science and how the brain works, right? If we implement tools and names and phrases and words, syllables and frequencies that we haven't had ingrained before and aren't sort of tainted with wounds, it really helps us integrate things and believe things more easily. And of course, in this life, belief is everything. You have to believe as well. You have to believe to receive. You have to believe to connect, right? Even Christ said, blessed are those who believe without seeing. And that is so much of this ascension and quantum journey, right? We believe it first, and then we see it, and then we receive it. So really getting to know and allow myself to unbiasedly know Krishna, and which was another thing as well, right? Just in my personal journey, I've been really aligned and connected with Shiva for a very long time in many lives. And Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. And so that's another thing where every organized religion does this to some extent. And that's why, my path is really freeing myself of that and helping others find their way to free themselves of that if they're ready and wanting to do that. Because like Hinduism has its own version where people have chosen to align with one version of God more so than the other. And that's fine if it really resonates with you to do that, if you're in the life where you need to only align with one. But so many more of us are awakening where we can be open and accepting of so many versions of God. And then we can have this huge spiritual toolkit, right? An army, an arsenal of versions of God to be with us and help us understand ourselves and each other and the world at any time. And that's why Goddess practice is helpful. We do this to an extent in Catholicism as well with saints, where understanding that each piece of God can help us with a different aspect, right? Archangels each have an assignment, a specialty that they're really good at helping us with, and archangels are multi-denominational. Saints have a specialty, right? You have a patron saint for something, right? Saint Anthony helps us find things, for example. And Hinduism and many of the goddess traditions, they are assigned a specialty, and you call on them when you're in a place where you need help with a certain thing. Again, I don't believe that's wrong. I believe it's so helpful, and I believe it helps us learn and explore and love all the parts of ourselves as well. To know that we are so loved by Source, by God, by Creator, that they have created infinite amount of ways and possibilities and versions of themselves for us to call upon and connect with when we have any sort of need at all. And it's really amazing if you can have a relationship with just one being to do that. But I also believe it's really helpful when you can have a multi-relationship and a multifaceted relationship. So that's just some of my opinions. Let me know if they resonate with you, if you'd like more information, if you feel really vibing with me and would like to connect with me personally in some of my light works and offerings, you can of course do that. I will leave the details in the description of the current best ways to contact me. I also have a PayPal open that I use for appointment energy exchange, but also energetic donations if you like and appreciate the collective light works that I like to share to help inspire others, and you want to support me in some way. Any amount is appreciated. I really appreciate you for being here with me, for being on this planet at this time. You are a hero, honestly, and I appreciate you sticking with me through this about 30-minute video. I hope you enjoyed this time with me. I really enjoyed being able to share openly and honestly with you and show you some of the ways, some of my understandings, and some of the ways that I've been healing my relationship with God and with Source and with Christ through a spiritual ascension journey and life. And I hope that this helps inspire you to do that as well. I send you blessings and love in Christ's name, in Krishna's name, in every single form and facet and name of the lighted, loving God. And I wish you luck and love and light codes on your journey as you explore doing that. See you next time.